Ukraine is in desperate need of support, but Republicans are not willing to help Ukraine because they are terrified of Donald Trump's retribution. I asked former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton about all of that today. We're here because it's a panel on the future, that's in a day of events related to the future of Ukraine. And I have to ask you, watching the sort of spectacle unfold in Washington around the sort of basic idea of Ukraine funding, what's your reaction to what the Republican Party has done on this issue or not done?
Yeah. You know, it's fascinating, Alex, because I think a very small minority of the Republican Party has hijacked the party when it comes to a number of things like border security and aid for Ukraine. I actually think that a majority of Republicans in both houses, if given the chance, would vote for both border security and Ukraine funding. It doesn't appear they'll get a chance to vote on border funding because it's not clear that it will pass the cloture requirement. But I think they will get a chance to vote on Ukraine funding along with Israeli funding, and I expect that to pass both houses.
So you're optimistic?
I am, about those two things. I think the stripping of the border security, the defeat in the House of the Israel aid only sets up a option for the Senate to pass both Ukraine and Israeli aid and then send it to the House.
I gotta think, though, if you're Vladimir Zelensky, right, and this is a matter of life and death, and you're watching a circus unfold, do you think it changes? There's so many reasons why, you know, the globe has thought differently of America in recent years, but a moment like that, where it's so clear that they're sort of engaging in the most base partisan theatrics over such an incredibly critical issue for the people of Ukraine. Do you think that forever changes the relationship America has with that part of the world? No, I think it raises questions, and those are understandable, because watching this profoundly dysfunctional Republican Party in the Congress, unable to make up its own mind about what it believes, what it will vote for, in part because they are in thrall to Trump, which is just so hard to understand, does, of course, raise questions. But I do think there is still a majority in both houses to support aid for Ukraine. And, of course, President Biden is, you know, fully on board. So at the end of the day, I am hoping that there will be a positive vote in the Congress, which will send a clear message, not just to Ukrainians, Europeans, others around the world, but to our own country. Why would we reward such, not just only dysfunctional behavior, but it's so unserious. I saw a columnist the other day use the word silly. It's profoundly silly to watch this circus in the Congress where Donald Trump is the puppeteer. You know, I was in the Senate for 8 years, and I know some of the people that are still there. I know they don't believe this, and why they continue to give in to him, I don't understand. I think that the border security would have been a very good time to stand up to Trump and say, you've been talking about it, we're delivering for you, Mr. President, and go from there. So we'll see what happens next. Were you surprised by their capitulation to Trump's whims on the border bill? I was surprised, because it was a really serious effort. The Republicans have done this before. When I was in the Senate, we overwhelmingly passed an immigration reform, you know, in addition to security, other provisions as well. We passed it overwhelmingly in the Senate. Then President George W. Bush said he would sign it, and the Republican leadership in the House would never bring it up for a vote. So I've said for years they'd rather have a problem on the border than a solution. But I thought this time, given the seriousness of the negotiation, the fact that it was only about security, that frankly the Democrats gave up a lot to support the Republican request for greater security, which I favored, actually. And then at the last minute to have Donald Trump tell people who are independently elected in their states and have an obligation to represent their constituents and their conscience that they had to stop
trying to solve the problem and go back to letting it fester for his own political purposes was pretty shocking to me.
And to do so explicitly, right?
Yeah.
There's no.
It wasn't even a surprise, was it?
Right? It's just kind of like Trump's telling us we can't do it because it's not good for him in an election year, so we're not going to do it.
And there were a few profiles in Courage for a little while, people standing up and saying, what are you talking about? We want to solve this problem. That's why we're sent to Washington. But then they capitulated. And honestly, it shows a real danger that Trump poses, where it doesn't matter whether you have a bipartisan agreement to solve a problem or not. If he wants it for political purposes, then he tries to and succeeds in blowing it up. That is what authoritarians do, and that's yet another reason why we can't let him anywhere near the White House again.